This is Dave, and I'm here with Ethan, and together we are Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al podcast, episode 86-inch.
On this week's episode, we welcome back Evan Gregory of the Gregory Brothers to discuss their viral 2020 presidential debate collaboration with Weird Al Yankovic.
It's Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al podcast.
It's a podcast about Weird Al.
It's Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al podcast.
Seriously, the whole podcast is about Weird Al.
Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al podcast.
You don't have to listen, but we're glad you are.
Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al podcast.
Getting to chat last week with Scotty Mitchell, formerly Scotty Haskell, was really nice. That was awesome.
It was so much fun to get to talk to her. It brought back some really great memories of Al's epic Strings Attached tour way back in the summer of 2019. Can you believe that was already over a year ago?
It feels like it was 10 years ago for some reason.
It sure does.
And also, thinking back to the Ill-Advised Vanity tour, that seems like so many years ago. That was only 2 years ago.
Well, it was so nice that Scotty had so many great memories of that tour, and she got to share a lot of it with us, and we got to kind of relive and reminisce with her as well. So it was really amazing having her on and reliving all those fun times we had out on tour.
Now, if you're feeling nostalgic and you want to revisit that Strings Attached tour with Dave and I, you can always check out our series of 27 bonus episodes where we document and review our experiences for every single show that we saw on the tour.
You know, I really miss doing those bonus episodes. They were a lot of fun, and I really hope that someday Al will get back out on tour and we can pick that up again. That was a lot of fun. You can head on over to 2000inch.com or weirdalpodcast.com and listen to that series of bonus episodes if you too are feeling nostalgic and you want to relive the tour like we just did with Scotty.
And I have to say, I feel like they get better as they go. And for some reason, they got longer. Like, I think when we were first talking about doing them, we're like, oh, well, after we review the show once, like, what else is there going to be to talk about? And then by, like, the end, like, they were over an hour long. And listening back to them, they were just so funny. I mean, most of the time, we would be recording at midnight when we're half asleep. So we would say some really bizarre and funny things. So I do highly recommend people check those out or revisit them if you haven't heard them in a while.
Yeah, I mean, you said over an hour. Some of those were over 2 hours. Some of them were longer than the concert itself.
Yes.
I don't know how we talked about the concert longer than the actual concert was, but somehow we managed to do it.
Yeah. And we came up with all these like inside jokes on the tour, like, you know, what color drink Al was drinking. And, you know, we would report on that every bonus episode. And it became so ridiculous. And it was just so much fun getting to record those with you. So I agree, Dave. I really hope that Al tours again so we can record more of our concert review / tour diaries.
Now, we noticed something pretty stinking majestic on our official Patreon page, patreon.com/2000inch. We have exactly 26 patrons.
As true Weird Al superfans and listeners of our podcast, we think that you know what you have to do. We have to get to 27.
Well, yeah, I mean, since we can't get to 26 and a half patrons, we have to get to 27. Now, as an extra incentive, the next person to join at the $10 or more tier will be getting a very special, exclusive Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al podcast t-shirt.
So if you've been on the fence, now is the time to sign up. You gotta be number 27.
And do not worry if you've already signed up. First of all, thank you very much. But we do have some fun things planned for you, including some t-shirt giveaways. So make sure you keep your patron support current.
Be sure to head to patreon.com/2000inch to catch secret episodes. You're going to get the bonus episodes we do with Bermuda early. So many cool things. And like Dave said, we have some really fun stuff coming up.
There are a whole bunch of great tiers. You can subscribe for as little as $1, and you can even find out how you can become a sponsor of the podcast, like our good friends over at Discover Darwin.
This week's episode is brought to you in part by Discover Darwin, promoting tourism in Darwin, Minnesota. Not only is historic Darwin, Minnesota beautiful, it's also secure.
Hanson Storage and Parking is the best place in Darwin, Minnesota to store your campers and boats.
Yes, Hanson Storage and Parking is conveniently located next to the Darwin Municipal Liquor Store, and it's only a short walk to the Twine Ball.
They have storage options that fit all of your camper and boat storage needs, both inside and outside. Now, you want to store your camper or boat inside? You can. You want to store it outside? Well, guess what? They can do that too.
And here's the best part. At Hanson Storage and Parking, it's totally legal to steal buildings with concrete floors. In fact, they encourage it.
Ethan, I think that they mean that the storage building itself is made out of steel and concrete.
No. Their official website says steel buildings with concrete floors. STEAL. Steel. Burglarize, rob, pillage, plunder, poach, rustle, shoplift.
But don't you dare think of stealing anything else besides the physical building, because there is a perimeter chain link fence for security. That's very good for keeping smelly drifters named Bernie from rummaging through your stuff while you take in all that Darwin, Minnesota has to offer.
And they also have year-round rodent control, which is great for keeping cute, cuddly hamsters named Harvey from rummaging through your stuff while you visit all that Darwin has to offer.
So visit Darwin, Minnesota for your next expedition. Discover Darwin more than just the twine ball. And after you visit Darwin, be sure to visit discoverdarwin.biz.
Some very exciting Al news this week. First off, Al tweeted on Monday that the New York Times selected his profile, written by Sam Anderson, who is our guest on episode 51-inch, as a best of 2020 story.
I mean, really, out of all the articles that New York Times Magazine did, that had to be number one. That was such an amazing article.
I think we said this back when it came out and when we spoke to Sam on the podcast, but a lot of Weird Al articles that we read are just very plain and generic, and it's the same kind of 4 or 5 facts rehashed. But Sam really was able to take Weird Al, and for people like us who are true super fans who know so much about Al, we consume so much media about Weird Al, to have something written that was so incredibly well researched and well written. It was a really pretty stinking majestic piece on Al.
Yeah, now for some reason you have not read that article yet, Al links to it on his Twitter page again. And in his tweet, he says that he was on the cover, but we've been driving around to every store in town. We've sent our intern Frank out to places all over the world. We've reached out to friends in Texas, Mississippi, Washington. And as far as we can tell, Al is not on the cover of the physical paper, much to our disappointment, but he is on the cover of the New York Times website, which is pretty stinking majestic.
Now, if you do know of Al's article from April being mentioned this week in the paper version of the New York Times, please let us know. We would love to add that to our collections.
So if you remember back in April when that article originally came out, it also came out in podcast form. Well, this is really exciting news. That podcast actually won an award.
Yes, the Sunday Read Weird Al Yankovic's Weirdly Enduring Appeal from the Daily Podcast was AV Club's choice for 2020's Best Podcast Narration.
The podcast itself is a word-by-word read of the article written by Sam Anderson, and the podcast was narrated by Eduardo Ballerini, so congratulations, everybody involved.
Coming up next month is an exciting digital show called Festpocalypse, a virtual variety show fundraiser for San Francisco Sketchfest.
This amazing fundraiser is coming up on Saturday, January 30th at 5 p.m. Hollywood Star Time. So put it in your calendars now so you do not forget. You do not want to miss this incredible lineup, including our friends and past guests, Dave Hill and Jonah Ray.
Yeah, others you may recognize as Weird Al fans on the lineup also include Margaret Cho, Patton Oswalt, the guys from Riff Tracks, Auntie Donna, Epic Lloyd from Epic Rap Battles of History, Kevin Pollak, and Reggie Watts, and also Weird Al!
We do not yet know in which capacity Weird Al will be involved in this event, but we cannot wait to find out.
Yes, so there's a bunch of different levels of tickets. They start at $20 and to grab tickets, and for more information, head over to sfsketchfest.com.
all of us here at Dave and Ethan's 2000 Inch Weird Al podcast are very excited to wish Weird Al's longtime keyboard player, the Rubemperor himself, Ruben Valtier, a very happy birthday this December 26th.
Happy birthday, Ruben! If you head back to episode 20-inch, you can check out our interview with Ruben.
What a great interview. It was so much fun talking to Ruben. And again, we got to do that on the 2019 Strings Attached tour. That was a lot of fun. And speaking of amazing keyboard players that have played with Weird Al, let's get on with this week's interview.
Dave and I are thrilled to welcome back a Gregory brother to the podcast. You know him from the Gregory Brothers, Shmoyoho. Please welcome Evan Gregory. How's it going, Evan?
Oh, it's going great. Thanks for having me. Good to be back, guys.
Yeah, glad to have you back.
Yes, it's been a long time.
Yeah, I said that with that was my sunny, I'm doing a podcast voice, and it's sort of didn't really bear out the reality of what living in 2020 is. So if I had to do it over, I would do that in a much more sad voice, but it happened. And so here we are.
When you guys dropped your Al song this year, immediately we got in touch with you, and you sent us this great gif of Weird Al with fire behind him saying, despite, things. And that has been my go-to gif all year. Wishing someone a happy birthday, then I send them that. Any sort of congratulations, despite, things. It's a great punchline.
Yeah, thank you. It's that was one of the first edits we made when we were writing the thing, is just getting across what an absurd year it had been up to that point and continues to be. Everybody basically gets that 2020 sucks in so many different ways.
Yeah.
So many unprecedented ways is this year sucking, right? So that's all you have to say is 2020, right?
Yep.
The fact that the song with Weird Al only came out a few months ago, it feels like it came out a year ago. I feel like each month is like a year in 2020, which only makes it that much worse.
Yes, it's really got me thinking a lot about the theory of relativity, how you could go to space and zoom around a giant star and you approach the speed of
Right.
light, and you come back and time has passed, 20 years for your twin brother, but you only aged a month kind of thing. It's
Right.
very much like that. We went into some sort of interstellar portal in 2020 by all staying home and not having social experiences through which to mark the time, yet we were also being bludgeoned by really harsh political rhetoric, and all those things have turned us into old men and women. We are emerging like Rip Van Winkle from this year, scarred and weather beaten. What happened?
You guys recently dropped your 2020 rewind video, and I'm watching it, and there's a lot of mention of the Bernie asking for money meme, and I'm like, why is that in a 2020 video? Surely that happened years ago.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, great example. Well, especially when you think that it was even pre-pandemic, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Anything pre-COVID does feel like it's 10 years ago.
It does.
Absolutely.
Oh, man.
Yeah, it's funny to watch our rewind video, which is a catalog of all of the what we deemed to be prominent memes of the year. But the internet is so big and splintered that no single person could recognize all of the memes that are being cataloged there. But the Bernie one can be a little bit more universal because even if you didn't see that being deployed on the internet as a meme trope, at least you recognize his face and get what could be funny about him asking for money repeatedly.
Right, yeah.
Right.
There just are so many memes, so much that happened in 2020 that how do you even decide what goes into a rewind video? You have to be missing stuff, but you have to make the decision somewhere to okay, I can include this and I can't include this.
Right. And it certainly reflects our taste as very online people, but not Facebooky people, and you have your own corner of the internet, and that's what influences us. But we tried to understand that nobody is going to recognize all the memes in this year-end wrap-up. So we would categorize them thematically. Here are 8 different versions of people having a public freak out, and so we're going to group them all together and just label them all as Karens. So this is the Karens
Right.
part, you know?
Right.
Yeah, maybe Karen's is the best meme to come out of 2020, if I had to vote.
It's an important meme in terms of like, yeah, there's some humor there, but it also helps you understand like a cultural reckoning that's happening. So it's important to understand what that means to like get along.
Right.
But it's not my favorite meme because it causes a lot of discomfort. I don't like it.
That's true.
I don't
That's
enjoy
true.
it, but you have to understand it. You have to come to terms with what it means to be a Karen.
Then what is your favorite meme of 2020?
Oh man, you know, as much as we were going through this, I don't know that I really did that amount of self-reflection.
Right.
It's fair.
We're steeped in the political stuff, so the Bernie one really speaks to me, and it's just so relatable to say, once again, I am asking for your financial support. You know, I really deeply love that one.
Yeah.
There's another one that we have, you know, a lot of things bubbled up through TikTok now, so we're finding things in a different way than we would do when it's, you know, really YouTube centric. But I'm crazy about the Da Vinci twins. I just love them so much because it's so pure and funny on its own merits. Are you familiar with what I'm talking about?
Is that the guy who said every friend is an ugly friend, or?
No, but I do love that one as well. And they actually look very
Okay.
similar. So there's the one dude who is like, there's no such thing as two pretty best friends. He's just kind of a dummy dispensing what he thinks is like really funny conventional
Right.
wisdom, but it's not conventional wisdom. It's just dumb. Yeah, I love that one so much. So he became a like linchpin of the chorus of our song, right? But there's another
Yes.
there's another thing that only appears for a split second, but was a very popular thing, making the rounds a couple months ago. Is these two twins that are on TikTok? I'm forgetting their names right now, but they're doing one of those little filters where something spins above your head while you're watching your own selfie. You know, like which Frozen character are you, right? But this one was like a trivia.
Oh, okay, yeah.
This one was a trivia game, so a question appears, you're supposed to answer it, and then in a few seconds it shows you the answer. So kind of like a fun game that you could play while taking your Instagram
Right.
selfie. So the question was like, who painted the Mona Lisa? And it's these two twins staring at the camera, and they're like, who painted the Mona Lisa? Well, Mona Lisa, of course. And then of course the answer comes up, Da Vinci. And then simultaneously in sync they both go, Da Vinci?
Oh no, I haven't seen that. I gotta see that.
Oh, it's so pure and so good. It's easy to find because it was really making the rounds there.
Oh wow.
But one of the things that's miraculous about it, if you will allow me to dissect the comedy here, of course, you know, verboten to do in comedy circles, but it works on its own merits. Like, are these guys so dumb that they don't know who not only who Da Vinci is, but also upon seeing the name they don't even recognize the name and mispronounce it? That's just really pure and funny. But it also it leaves the door open about 5% to the possibility that they do know who Da Vinci is and just planned it, and you can't quite know, and that aspect of mystery that makes me watch it 100 times as opposed to just watching it 10 times.
Right.
Oh, trying to figure it all out. And you guys have definitely, I feel like you guys are driving certain memes. I mean, the whole ramp I ran thing, that video is just amazing. It's something that I have watched maybe 20 times since it came out.
Mission accomplished, man. I mean, that's what we're always hoping to do, is to like distill something into its essence and make it really rewatchable. And you know that's
Right.
one where I think we got the formula right. You know, the ramp song is
Yes.
like it works as a very stupid pop song. You know.
Yes.
And we sort of deployed it as a meme, just like this idea that I'm running down a ramp and then can run down that ramp, in any possible context. I'm running down ramps in the Olympics and on the International Space Station,
On Sonic, on Mario. It's just so great.
Yeah.
Now, of course, the most exciting video that you came out with this year, you and the Gregory brothers, was Weird Al's video, the election video, which I think there's a little bit of debate. Maybe you can settle this for it. Is it called Who's It Gonna Be or We're All Doomed? What is the official name of that song?
Wow, great question, because it gets pretty mucked up when you want to publish stuff to like Spotify where you need a song title, but then you also want to publish stuff to YouTube where you have to have a clickable video title. So for us, it's like, the video is called We're All Doomed, and that was sort of decided in concert with the New York Times, who we were publishing with when it came out. But for us, the song is Who's It Gonna Be, because that's the chorus, that's the hook.
Yeah.
And when you pull the song out of the video, to us as songwriters, that was the name of the song. Even if we're going to call the video We're All Doomed, which is sort of that's the thesis of Weird Al's character.
So the answer to which is it is yes.
Yeah.
Essentially.
Yes.
Of course, the video's all about the first 2020 presidential debate, and it came out like the next day right after the debate. It's amazing how you guys can pull off that so quickly.
Oh, thanks, man. I mean, yeah. That's something that we strive to do, and it's like a pledge that we make to our audience and to the world, is that we're going to take a look at this event and produce something by the next day as like our official reaction. And in some ways, hopefully it's a helpful thing to help people absorb and understand this momentous event. So yeah, it's a ton of work and involves us like bringing all of our craft that we've honed over the years to bear to make this thing work. But in order to make it happen, we still do a lot of work in advance, so as to take as much as we can off of our own plates when we do the overnight. The end goal is to have this song that incorporates all of these pieces from the actual event. But you can predict a lot of what is going to be said in terms of like, what the major domestic policy issues are, especially like, this year, obviously we're going to be talking about the virus, and we're going to be talking about, the economic collapse and, so on and so forth. So, what do we do is a couple weeks in advance. We've already been engaging with Al, of course, to say, like, do you want to be a part of this again? And he graciously agreed. So then we're scripting what are the questions that will capture these issues, set them up in a funny way. Like they have to be a standalone joke on their own, essentially, but act as a prompt so that plausibly the candidates could be responding to this question. So, we're just like, just writing our butts off, like trying to get the best version of that, and something that we'd be proud to send to Al too and write in his voice. So we're doing that in advance and composing the music, something that we think will like capture the energy. So the beats, it is already done. So we're not trying to compose that overnight. So then after the thing airs, we can just focus on what is it that Biden and Trump said that we can distill into song form and put in response to these questions. Now, of course, famously, that debate was the most cacophonous in history and the worst tailored to like what we are trying to do, namely people giving coherent answers and not talking over one another. Gosh darn it! So it's probably the most difficult task we've ever set ourselves in terms of promising in advance that we're going to make something coherent and then having to cut it out of this cloth. It was pretty bad, but we managed it and made a little bit of hay out of the talking over one another and the insulting and the non sequiturs and all that stuff. So then the end result was something we thought was pretty great. So we went to the New York Times and said, like, would you guys like to publish this as an opinion piece, basically? And they said yes, which is like a huge boon for it to go out to their audience and be stamped with the like stamp of approval from the paper of record,
Oh yeah.
Especially they had the huge profile of Weird Al back in April this year, so they sort of are already like, who Weird Al is, right?
Yes, exactly. Yes, exactly.
You know, you think of people who read the New York Times and you may not think they know who Weird Al is, but now they definitely do.
That's right. If somehow those readers were like so buttoned up as to not understand who Weird Al was, now the magazine has appropriately placed him in the pantheon of pop culture figures of our generation. And so then perhaps they can be all the more excited and accepting of this opinion piece coming from his voice.
I remember when it came out, Dave and I and a few other fans, we were excited because technically there was 2 different versions of the video, and in the one for the New York Times there were credits at the end, and it gave us just a little bit extra to drool over and talk about. So that was really interesting.
Oh yeah, well I guess you're technically right that like, you know, their video department has their like specific protocols for how they publish, so they attach credits to the end that, you know, we don't normally do in the YouTube format. We might credit people, but it would be like down in the description or whatever. So,
right.
So what is it that you noticed that like piqued your interest? I'm so curious what you guys are drawn to.
Well, I mean, Dave and I, we're very insider type people, but we see that, you know, Suzanne Yankovic does Al's hair and makeup for the video, whereas normally it's his hairstylist, Sean James. So we were just very interested in like things like that, you know, we didn't get from the YouTube video.
You can attribute that to 2020 in the sense that, you know, how did the workflow go down? You know, we can't shoot without, plus we're on different coasts anyway. So, how did the workflow go down? Well, we write the script here, and then we're not going to produce sheet music. The best way to communicate to Al is just to record a demo. So we recorded the whole thing, you know, right here where I'm sitting right now, and sent it to him. And then he sits at his dining room table because it's a pandemic and you don't go to a recording studio. And he recorded himself on, you know, like basically like a laptop and a prosumer type mic. He just recorded his own, you know, final vocals. Of course, they sound incredible because he's a very skilled singer. But he's engineering that himself. And so when we say Suzanne Yankovic did hair and makeup, it's because he just went from his house straight to the shoot that we put together in Santa Monica with a skeleton crew following COVID protocols. So, you know, he had his wife look at his hair and powder his face before he left the house, because you don't want to be interacting with hair and makeup on set. You know, he showed up already dressed, did the gig, you know, and we were on Zoom, so we're sitting right here in our recording booth, just on Zoom with Santa Monica, and you know, he's just like chatting back and forth with us through a monitor, like, you know, what kind of takes do you guys want? And that's kind of how it all went down.
Wow. So vocals and video were recorded separately?
Yeah, that's right. And that's really how you would do a conventional music video, is like the music always comes first and then you do the video to sync, and you don't want somebody generally to be having to perform vocally and getting everything right with a usable take while you're also performing on camera. So, you know, we ordered the production with that in mind. Like, this is a music video basically. So you send the demo to Al, he records everything, we get it back, it all sounds great, we set it in the arrangement, then it's shoot day and he shows up and we've already printed an end-to-end version of the song with his vocals in it, and just, you know, massive holes for where we're going to stick Trump and Biden and all that stuff. And so he can be in the shoot on a green screen lip syncing to himself. And the only thing he really has to perform live is the dialogue. So that's the intro and the outro, where you sort of set the scene. You establish the world that we're in, which is this like fictional version of the debate, right? Where Weird Al gets to express all of our collective angst, and then introduce the whole video. Then you lip sync the whole song, and then the sort of goodbye moment, like, you know, I'm out of here, you know, kind of thing. So that's all real audio recorded in the room. You know, all the dialogue is live.
And so what is the timeline on all this? When do you get in contact with Al? When does the demo get recorded? When does he record? When does he do the video, as leading up to the actual day of the debate and the video dropping the next morning?
I should have done my homework and pulled this all up before I started talking to you, but you know, with a grain of salt, we contacted him a couple of months out. As we had collaborated once before in 2016, and we just basically pulled up his email and said, do you want to do this again? It was a hit last time, and there was nothing but goodwill generated from it, basically. So they're kind of good, warm, fuzzy feelings post that. So he agreed and was very generous and enthusiastic. So then it was maybe a couple weeks out, we did all the writing on it. We're also, of course, simultaneously thinking about how we're going to execute the 3 other debates. There's only a week in between each one, so we're sort of like managing the whole thing as one giant project. But we started writing a couple weeks out, and I guess it was maybe only 1 week out is when we like print the demo, sent to him. He gets it back within a couple days. He's like at home just kicking it, so he got to work on this. And I think we did the shoot only a couple of days out. I believe this first debate.
Oh, wow.
I believe the first debate was on a Tuesday. Seems right.
Yes.
And so we did the shoot the day or two before, and they're just shipping footage to us through the cloud. And so we sort of set up a skeleton framework for the song as an outcome of that shoot. Leaving ourselves holes that we know we approximately want to fill, but then we adjusted it, even after the fact. On that overnight, I guess it was Tuesday night into Wednesday, we're still adjusting the length of the song to accommodate what we actually got from the candidates. So, for example, we cut a whole question. We pre-wrote, 5 or 6 questions about like, okay, they're probably going to talk about these particular subjects, first and foremost, the pandemic, but also, the Supreme Court appointment that was currently raging, and there's this hot constitutional debate about whether or not you can get a justice on the Supreme Court and all this stuff. So boy, did we battle internally about like how best to voice that and still write it for Al's voice, which is, of course, he has a political perspective of his own, but his voice as an artist is apolitical. And it wouldn't be right for the voice of Weird Al to come out and say like Republicans suck and they're big doo-doo heads or whatever. So what, how did it feel right to us? Well, we set it up as a food joke and just a pun on Nachos Supreme, and that's it. And it's it's funny enough on its own, but most importantly, it sets up like it still works as a prompt for then the 2 candidates to say whatever they want about the Supreme Court.
Exactly.
But we did have a question in there that we demoed and Al recorded and lip synced, all fully shot, about the election itself, because we were already anticipating correctly at that time that there was going to be a big hullabaloo. I mean, it was not. This is no like amazing feat of prognostication on our part. Like everybody knew that everybody knew that Trump is going to come out and try to undermine the election by, if he loses, say that it's fake news or whatever, and we've seen his version of that play out, disinformation, right? And just like trying to, if you lose the pie eating contest, you just kick over the table and say you have no proof, and so we're like, they're gonna ask about that, and sure enough they did. Can you say that you will concede the election and that sort of thing? But in our estimation, we didn't get good enough material that night. As previously mentioned, it was so dissonant, so much talking over one another. It was a lot of work and difficult work that night to tease out as much as we got on the other questions, let alone everything. And this was one where we just didn't feel like we had it. Plus, the song was long enough. It's like we made it to 3 minutes or whatever it was we were trying to get to. So we cut that whole section. So there's a question that Al has recorded and has never seen the light of day. So I sent you that clip.
Oh yeah, let's listen to that. This is awesome.
It'll be so tough to count the votes this year. If you need help, I can count all the way to 12 on my fingers and my ears.
I think they could have used his help, actually.
We really could have. In hindsight, we needed the help. But, you can see that, like, this is late September, so you can see, like, 6 weeks ahead of the election, we really already knew what the problems were going to be. So,
right.
When people are sort of, like, pretending to be surprised by what the disinformation was all through November and what the issues were that were coming up, like, these were not surprises, right? We knew what was coming. When we were writing these questions, we knew that the problems were going to be around saying how to count the votes, both for legitimate reasons, because it's a pandemic and people are voting in different ways, and for illegitimate reasons, namely trying to foment discord, right? But we don't want to say things like foment discord in the song here. So we're like, what's the Weird Al way of setting this up? Us making a stupid joke about counting on your fingers, and oh man, we must have gone through 20 versions here when we were demoing it about, like, gosh darn it, what's the best way to make this joke? Well, it should be I can count to 20 on my fingers and my toes. No, what about if it's count to 12 on your fingers and your ears and it rhymes with year? And then we're getting into fistfights over. These are the types of things that you fight about when you're trying to make one single joke rhyme,
Right.
Right.
But it still worked as a setup to respond with anything that the candidates thought about the election. But sure enough, we ended up cutting it from the product.
Is that the only clip that you ended up cutting that Al had recorded?
That's the only, like, section of substance that we ended up cutting. Now, we cut a million other things because you get a lot of, like, pithy little reactions and stuff like that. We did it, and of course Al understood this immediately, is that, he's just reacting to trying to predict reactions to what's going to be said. So we have
right.
We have 50 different versions of Al saying oh sure, yeah, right, or whatever, and then we deploy those judiciously based on what is said and what we are including, right? And then I guess the other thing that we have is just, like, his different takes on what the intro and outro could be. But that's not cutting anything of substance. That's just, like, alternate takes. We did several different takes of the intro before we hit on what is the ultimate version, which I believe is the right version, which is just to open purely on Al's very calm face and then immediately do a pivot into terror and panic. So that was, like, our sixth or seventh version of it, and we started with a much slower turn, or just, like, starting panicked, and then anyway, the version we got is the best possible version. But, like, that's us collaborating in real time with Al about, like, how this character works on screen.
Yeah.
And so, with the intro and with any of the lyrics, is there any back and forth with Al, or is that sort of just like he shows up, you guys have kind of done the writing for him?
Well, with the song, I mean, we definitely were trying to write in his voice, right, and get it right, and of course we're sending him the demo and making sure that he's approving of it before he goes and records himself. But yeah, the song at that point is recorded, so he's definitely lip syncing that. But there was a lot of back and forth and collaboration on the intro and outro. It's mostly 2 hour script. Like, we thought of how are we going to set up this fictional debate, but then the tweaking to get it to sit exactly in the character of Weird Al and in his voice. He tried on several different things and different rhythms of delivery and different jokes about the segue and dumb stuff like that to get it to sit right. And the outro as well, where it's like there's the whole gag about, like, him being blown with these hellish winds, and he just picks up the off-screen leaf blower and leaves with it.
Yes.
And him kind of riffing on that really made it. It made the whole thing work, but it definitely made it sit in his character. It's just he's such a generous collaborator, and very ready comedic mind that whatever our ideas were about what the setting of this piece was or what the thematic goals were, he just, like, instantly gets it. We're on the same page and just proceeding together, and it's just really great to work with him. the other clip I sent you is intended to illustrate both Al's incredible singing acumen and also a sort of dry sense of humor, which is that when scripting the thing, we have this very stupid joke at the beginning, which is that, okay, he's ready to sing a song, and the song is like scatting gibberish, Scooby-Doo-Babba-Doo-Booby. And it's like, oh, I just had the page upside down. You know, like, this is the dumbest, like, vaudeville,
Right.
Marx Brothers type joke. The page was upside down, but we thought it was funny, so we stuck with it. And he, you know, he was down with it. But in the demo we sent him, you know, our demo has like a little intro. Hello, welcome to the debate. Let's begin the song. Scooby-Doo, and has the scat, and then immediately into the first question, right? But tacitly, we're giving the scat to Weird Al to do whatever he wants with it. It's improvisational. It should fit his voice and whatever feels right to him, right? That's what we're thinking when we send it to him. So I demoed a scat. This is what you put here. It goes for 8 clicks, and then you're on to the first question, and the song commences. And then he sent back his final vocals where he had copied note for note exactly the scat I had improvised. Which is like, that's not a thing that you're supposed to do. First of all, it's improvised, so it doesn't really sound coherent, and there's a lot of notes in there. So that'd be like very tedious to learn that note for note and sing it back. but so we asked him about. We were like, oh, we just got your takes. Thank you so much. Now, you could do anything you want with that opening bar there. If you know, whatever you want to do. You know, we just improvise it. That literally was my first take, and we never looked back because we figured you'd improvise it. And he responded like, oh, I would never change another songwriter's lyrics.
Amazing.
Which, of course, is like a very kind thing to say, but also is just a really wry joke because there are no lyrics there. It's just stupid doobity bobbity boop. So if you play the clips I sent you, there is the original demo version, which is an unedited first take from me where we never went back and did another try because we thought Al was going to make up something else. But instead, he, just for fun, copied it exactly note for note, and you can hear that.
All right, so we'll listen to yours first, your demo. All right, and here's Al's.
Scoo doo doo it, doo it and bibba da baba da boo, baba doo it.
Wow. Oh, that's so great.
He just had a demo. You didn't send him any lyric sheets or anything, so he just kind of had to listen and trying to find out what you were saying.
Yes. And we sent him a lyric sheet for all the questions, so he knows what he's singing. But that was like, oh, it just said like bracket scat, you know. And then so he's just listened. You know, he just. I should dig up my actual script here. Yeah. Oh yeah, the script's here. I have the original script that we sent him, and it says, "Gentlemen, welcome to the first presidential debate. My first question in the key of G sharp minor is," and then like action. Al begins scatting. The beat backs him up with power and ferocity. And then he says, "I'm so sorry." So there is no record of like, oh, you're supposed to say shoo baba doo beep, you know. Instead, it was like, it's like on the one hand a very sweet compliment that he's taking our dumb thing so seriously, but it's also a like major show off move that he could hear every individual note and repeat it back 100% precision.
Right.
I want to see Al's personal notes for when he was transcribing that. I think that would be super interesting to see.
Right. Yeah. You're right. It could be like a jazz guitarist, you know, charting out something that he's like doing by ear or whatever with a visual graph.
Oh, I would not put that past Al. I guarantee that's what he did.
And I love his comment to you that he would never change somebody else's lyrics, since he literally built his career on that.
Oh, Al is he's a genius.
It's true.
Because literally, there's nothing funnier that he could have done than doing exactly what you did. Like, nothing that he could have just come up with would have been any funnier than going through the work and the process to do that. So that's why we have a whole podcast dedicated to the guy, because he's just a genius.
That's the way I feel, is that it was like both a compliment and a sweet gesture, and also a funny inside joke. It's like the audience will never know about that, but it was just hilarious to us. I'm just looking while we're talking. I'm here like searching through our email to find like his exact quote. I'll find it here in a second. Because I know we went back to him at some point and we were like, hey, by the way, you could just make up your own thing here. and he was like, oh no thanks. I'm here for the purity. Oh yeah, I guess we had, maybe Andrew had told him that on the phone or something. So he emailed us and was like, oh, I gave you a ton of ad libs. Just choose your favorites and we'll shoot them on Thursday. So it looks like we shot on that Thursday before the debate. And then he's just so generous. He's like, if there's anything else need or want, let me know. And I would not dream of changing one syllable of that scat. What kind of man would I be if I changed the words to another person's song?
Oh, I love that. It was really cool. After watching the video, you guys had a behind the scenes video on your other channel. And in that, Michael gets a text from Al.
His work is done after that shoot. First he recorded the lyrics, and we're talking about the content thereof. We want to make sure that we're like writing in his voice, and that's a very sensitive thing. And then a couple days later, he goes to the shoot, and we're very focused on that. But by the time he leaves the shoot, then it's up to the crew to ship the footage, and he doesn't have a thing to do. And then it's just on us to like absorb it, review the footage. We're doing selects, then the debate happens, blah blah blah. So he's just like basically rooting for us, and would like text us being like, let me know if you need anything. And then when the debate airs, of course, and it was a thing. It was like it was quite a show. And so then he's texting us like, well, I don't envy you guys. Good luck. I'm going to bed. Just like, good luck. And and that was it. And of course he's creative too, and has spent many an hour heads down in his own creative project. So he knows what that is all about and doesn't want to bother us. So the next morning he just wakes up and is like, all right, are you guys surviving or what?
That's so great.
Yeah.
So a lot of the news coverage I saw about the video, almost 100% of the credit was given to Al in most of these places. I mean, yeah, the New York Times got it right. A few places got it right. Is that complimentary to you guys? It must kind of sting, like, oh, we did all this hard work, we came up with the idea, we worked with Al, we wrote the lyrics, did the song, but then these newspapers are just like, Weird Al makes this video in record time. Is that a compliment? And that it's like people are seeing your work and they're just like, yeah, this is Weird Al's work entirely, because that's the greatest compliment you can get? Or is it just kind of like, come on, guys?
No, it doesn't really sting. What you're saying definitely tracks, in the sense that, like, of course, everybody wants, to be credited for doing something that people are enjoying. But we get 100% the perspective of, like, whatever random, both like blogs and people on Twitter and stuff like that, but also like big publications. Rolling Stone is just like, they're just trying to get content for people to click on, basically. Like every magazine is now a blog, right? So they have to think in terms of like, who is the most recognizable name here that people are going to click on. And if the headline is like, Weird Al has a great take on the debate, like everybody wants to see that, because it's going to be like hilarious. And to the extent that like everybody bought that Weird Al was behind this, that is a success, that we're able to like write in his voice and make something that feels like it came from him, but people can just consume it casually as like a Weird Al song, but people that are online would also see it as like one of our signature pieces too, right? Because it is a remix. It's a collage of the night where we are successfully taking all these disparate pieces and putting them into one somewhat coherent thing. So I mean, it mostly was just great to see the really positive reception. Having Al's name attached to it both made it work creatively. Like, his character pulls the whole thing together and gives you a perspective on how to understand this event. But it also just directly led to more people watching it, and that's a good thing. Like, we want to get our point of view out there. We want to get our work out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was one, there's a lot of people that wrote about it on the day, right? Because people are looking for their own takes and trying to just generate content in the most cynical way around the debate. And in so doing, if they find our thing and just publish that, well, then that's for the greater good, I think. But more recently, Salon did a like year-end recap, it's getting to the end of the year, so you talk about what are the best things of the year. And one of their staff writers says, like, my favorite thing of the year was this Weird Al Gregory Brothers video called We're All Doomed. And he wrote this great tribute to the video, saying that it like really got it. It really nailed the year, the character of this horrible year and the character of that horrible debate. And it was one of the best compliments paid to both us and Al that I could think of, because it like correctly identified how important Al's voice was, while also understanding that we're the creative voices behind the thing, and deciding what clips to include from the presidential candidates is also the writing of the thing too, right? Anyway, that's a cool thing you can check out, that it's like a very nice compliment paid to Al, and sort of like establishes that video as this like important cultural artifact from the year.
Oh, it absolutely is. I can't wait to read that. That sounds great.
All right, so you worked with Weird Al in 2016 on the debates. You worked with him in 2020 on the debates. Have you booked his time yet for 2024?
No, we haven't. But I should. I mean, we're pretty bullish on.
Yeah.
We have a pretty strong track record of like both of 2 out of 2 collaborations have been very well received. I hope and pray that if we're still in the mix in 4 years, that our stars will cross again.
Yes.
Definitely looking forward to that.
Now, asking on behalf of myself and Dave and all of our listeners and fellow collectors out there, is there any chance that we're going to get a physical CD, vinyl, any kind of release of this song and Bad Hombres?
Oh, man. What a generous and sweet question. I think, speaking pessimistically, I think there's almost no chance that we'll do a physical release. Because I don't know we could meet our overhead on getting the vinyl master, getting the lacquer set up, to use the like industry term for creating a vinyl master. When it's just so shareable digitally, like people want to consume it as a single. But we have considered like doing all of our political releases from 2020. We sort of, as if I can be so bold, as artists, we thought about, even though we're not releasing them at the same time, everything that was political about this year's campaign that we were releasing, we thought of it as part of an album that we were sort of loosely behind the scenes calling it Songify 2020. And that started in the beginning of the year with stuff that we generated around the primaries, probably the best example of which was Hairy Legs by Joe Biden. But it also includes includes The Ramp by President Trump. Important. You could just think of it as a hit single off of the album Songify 2020. So it's like, that's how we would think of like, packaging and releasing something like this, is like the album Songify 2020, which takes you on a journey of what happened this year, but it also hangs together musically because that's a goal we set out to do. As we're producing the track for The Ramp, we're looking back at Hairy Legs and thinking about like, how can we make it feel like the same bass player was like in the studio sessions on both of these tracks, that kind of musical thinking. And I think we succeeded in that, and so that's the thing that we would package and sell. Except that now that you're past the election, like nobody wants to think about the election anymore. So we so it probably will live
Except
best.
for me and Dave and all the collectors out there.
You're right. I'm talking to exactly the right audience right now to convince me to do a vinyl pressing.
All right.
That's right.
It doesn't even have to be a vinyl. It can be a cassette tape, a CDR. As long as you take money for it and sell it to me, then it's official, right?
Yes. Yeah, you're right. If a transaction is made, then it's official. So spending this time with you here today is the best way to get me, like, at the end of today to be like, we're making a record.
All right. Well, before you make the record, there's some really exciting thing happening today. A Very Gregory Christmas live stream on YouTube.
Yes, that's right. Oh, thank you so much for bringing it up. So yeah, for those of you that are listening to this podcast on the day of the release and you're looking for an extremely cozy and funny and comfortable and warm place to experience a little bit of the Christmas holiday, come to our Christmas live stream. This is something that we've done for, I'm going to say 15 years now, but throughout those years, it's primarily been a live show, but we've gone to live stream, and certainly in 2020, that's the only way we're doing the show. But it's a tradition for us and our fans where we get to spend some time together doing both sincere and warm Christmas carols and standards, and also interject with some of our own very silly Christmas songs that have bubbled up over the years. And it's probably tooting our own horn too far to say that it's like in the spirit of Weird Al, but the Weird Al is a very like kind and sincere guy while also being hilarious. So it's in that spirit that we try to have a Christmas concert where like everybody can cuddle up and enjoy some really good seasonal vibes, but also have some laughs. I think the like laugh to tears ratio is probably 8-1, but we will make you cry by the end.
And so you said you will, in addition to the funny stuff, do some standards. Do those include Christmas at Ground Zero or The Night Santa Went Crazy?
No. Great question. We take the sincere stuff as part of the Christmas canon and do that in our own voice. So Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas, that's in there. Just straight up, probably the best version you've ever heard. I can say that unabashedly as performed by my wife, Sarah Gregory.
Awesome.
Oh Come All You Faithful, probably, top 10 version, because you don't hear that one as often on Delilah. But we don't take other people's Christmas comedy songs. We leave that to ourselves. So we have our own comedy songs.
Okay.
Cold as Hell is a new classic that we do, that it's written very much in the like American songbook style about it being cold as hell. And similarly, one that we did, composed afresh for when we captured all this on our Christmas album. I recommend you pick it up for your grandmom right away. It's called Sleigh Ride, Fireside. And this tune called Those Traditions We Do is our own comedic take on those traditions that you and your family might have in this time of year. If that includes like baking cookies, that's in the song. If that includes shaving a muskrat and taping the hairs on your Uncle Joe, well, that's in the song too. And these are the traditions that we all share this time of year.
Oh, and for collectors, Sleigh Ride Fireside is also available on vinyl if you head over to your Bandcamp page. So there's something for everyone this holiday. A Very Gregory Christmas will be taking place Wednesday, December 23rd. That's tonight if you're listening to this on the day of the release at 5 p.m. Eastern. That's 5 p.m. burrito time. And we're so thrilled that you came back to join us, Evan. It's so great to have you back and telling us all about Weird Al and sharing those amazing clips. So thank you so much for joining us.
Guys, thank you so much for having me. This has been a real treat.
That was so much fun talking to Evan Gregory. I hope it's not another 4 years before we get to hear more collaboration between Weird Al and the Gregory brothers.
Yes, and I hope he follows through and sells us a burned CD of those songs for $1, because that would be awesome to add to our collection. Now, if you head over to the Gregory Brothers Patreon page, patreon.com/Gregory Brothers, you can download the full stems for both collaborations they've done with Weird Al, and they are really cool to check out, so I highly recommend it. Plus, you can get downloads and stems for all of their other songs as they're posted on their Patreon page.
And if you're listening to this episode the second it drops, like you should be, then you still have time to prepare for tonight's Very Gregory Christmas on their YouTube page. It's free and it starts at 5 p.m. burrito time. It promises to be a lot of festive holiday fun.
For other festive holiday fun, you can check out their album Sleigh Ride, Fireside. Get it on vinyl, CD, or digital download. And for more information about them, of course, head to thegregorybrothers.com.
We are coming up on the end of another exciting year of Dave and Ethan's 2008 Weird Al podcast, and our intern Frank has been busy compiling year-end highlights and statistics for our final episode of the year next week.
And our intern Frank has reminded us that we still have an amazing parody of the Joe Franklin song by our friend and podcast supporter, Mike Minnick.
Oh yeah, we're actually going to do this? All right, let's do this. So Weird Al's appearance on the Joe Franklin show was, that was back in 1986, which, wait a minute, that was 4 years before you were born, Ethan.
Yeah, it was just a little bit before my time. Before we listened to this, I wish I knew a little bit more about Joe Franklin, who he was, when and where he was on, and just how Weird Al ties into all of this.
Well, lucky for you, Ethan, we have a whole bunch of Joe Franklin historians on the payroll, which up until this very moment, we've never had a reason to use.
Oh yeah! I'm so glad that we hired all those historians, including the team of Joe Franklin historians, way back when we started the podcast. Now, if we could just remember to use them once in a while.
Well, they do sit in the studio with us while we record each episode, so we really have no excuse not to use them more often. All right, well, before we listen to both Al's original song and the parody by Mike Minnick, let's see what one of our resident Joe Franklin historians has to say about the subject.
Hello, I'm so glad to be here as your resident Joe Franklin historian. Joe Franklin was a radio and television personality with a long-running television series, appropriately enough called The Joe Franklin Show, which aired on WWOR-TV, better known as Channel 9 for those of you in the New Jersey listening area. Franklin was famous for having an odd mix of low-level performers and big-name celebrities, sometimes even at the same time. His guests included everyone from the Beastie Boys to Elvis Presley and Captain Lou Albano to John F. Kennedy. Now, you may be wondering how this is all related to Weird Al Yankovic. When Yankovic was a guest on the November 24th, 1986 episode, he brought along his band as well, Steve J., John Bermuda Shorts, and Jim West. Yankovic and the band performed an original song for Franklin in which they expressed their true feelings for him.
Joe Franklin, Joe Franklin, ooh, you're my reason for living. Yeah, Joe, ooh, you're the one and only Franklin in my life, except for Bob Franklin, who was in my biology class in high school. Oh, Joe Franklin, Joe Franklin, ooh, I know I couldn't live without you. Oh, Joe, if I couldn't watch your program, I'd just shrivel up and die, and the maggots would eat my brain. Eat my brain. Mr. Franklin, you mean so very, very much to me. Words simply can't describe you that well. Wow, wow. But if I had to choose an adjective, well, gosh, Joe, I'd have to say you're swell. Hey, Joe. Hey, Joe. Where you going with that gun in your hand? Silly Joe. I'll bet you that there's no one in the world who who could do the Joe Franklin show like you.
The song was a true Yankovic original with everything you would expect from a Yankovic love letter. Franklin was noticeably uncomfortable as the lyrics got weirder and weirder as the song went on. It's unclear if Franklin actually understood any of the jokes or placed the gun reference as a lyric from a Jimi Hendrix song or was even aware that Yankovic wrote comedy songs. The song that you are about to hear is a parody of the song that Yankovic and his bands performed for Franklin on November 24th, 1986.
Dave and Ethan, ooh. You're my favorite Weird Al podcast, 2002. You're the only Dave and Ethan in my life, except for Dave and Ethan who went to Chilliwack High School. Oh, Dave and Ethan, ooh. I probably couldn't live without you. Maybe if I couldn't hear your podcast, I'd find a new one, or maybe start one of my own. Dave and Ethan, your podcast means so very much to me. Words simply can't describe it that well. But if I had to choose an adjective, oh gosh, guys, I'd have to say it's swell. Yeah. Hey guys. Where'd you get those vegan Twinkie wiener sandwiches? Burrito. I'll bet you there's no one in the world who could host Dave and Ethan's 2,000-inch Weird Al podcast like you.
Mike, that song is so awesome. Thank you for recording that and sending it to us.
That song is hilarious. Thank you, Mike. I'm so glad that our intern Frank finally let us listen to it rather than make us wait to the 35th anniversary next year like his original plan was.
That Frank.
Did you hear that?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, my tummy hasn't really been feeling great with all the jelly bean and pickle sandwiches I've been eating this month.
No, that was the noise that we hear when there's a new message on the 347 Spatula Hotline.
The 347 Spatula Hotline, the official hotline of Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al podcast, is sponsored by Angel Valenzuela and David Cash, two amazing Weird Al fans and podcast supporters. Let's take a listen.
Hi there, Dave. Hi, Ethan. It's your old buddy Chris from Canada. You know, the Hanna-Barbera loving geek. Well, anyways, first of all, I just wanted to say, I hope you guys like that little present I sent you in the email. Took me a while to do, but I got a feeling you and your viewers will enjoy it. That being said, I couldn't help but notice that with all of the shows you guys have been doing online on your podcast, you haven't really been getting into the Christmas spirit, and Christmas is coming up real soon. But don't despair. I got you covered. I'm going to take this golden opportunity now to sing a Christmas carol that hopefully will get you guys in the festive mood. And unfortunately, no, it's not The Night Santa Went Crazy or Christmas at Ground Zero. Believe me, I would love to sing those songs. Unfortunately, I've gotten into a few legal issues with that. Talk later. So I got you a better song instead. It's the 12 Days of Christmas. Unfortunately, I can't sing the entire song as it would cost me a fortune on my phone bill, so I'm just going to sing the last part. Here we go. On the 12th day of Christmas, good Weird Al gave to me 12 hamsters running on a hamster wheel, 11 unwanted back tattoos, 10 subscriptions to the Midnight Star, 9 tacky coats with matching hats and socks, 8 cups of poison coffee, 7 ugly pairs of shoes, 6 random things he bought off of eBay, 5 golden spatulas, 4 annoying virus alerts I got on my email, 3 previously used iron lungs, 2 postcards from the Minnesota Twine Ball, and a box of 1 dozen starving crazed weasels. I love that song. It's such a classic. Kind of gets you right here, doesn't it? Well, anyways, I'll catch you guys later. You guys have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, and hopefully I'll see you guys within the new year. Above all, have fun, and here's hoping Santa spoils you rotten. He already sent me an Uzi. Not really sure why. Well, see you, fellas.
Thank you so much for that amazing message, Chris. I love it when our listeners send us parody songs that they've written.
And especially when they're hilarious. So thank you so much. All right. I can't take it any longer, Dave. We got to open that email that Chris sent us. Wow!
This artwork is pretty stinking majestic, as it always is.
All right. So there's a drawing of you, Dave, and you're dressed like a candy cane with a giant tub of Skipper Dan Rocky Road flavored ice cream with a tag that says, "To Ethan from Dave."
And then there's one of you, Ethan, dressed as a gingerbread man, and you have this gigantic jar of Amish country sauerkraut that says, "To Dave from Ethan."
Chris, how did you know what Dave and I were getting each other for Christmas?
Chris also sent a really funny police lineup drawing showing some very familiar characters from various Weird Al songs. We will post that over on our Facebook group, group.2000inch.com, so you can see it for yourself and you can catch all of the references.
That sauerkraut and Rocky Road ice cream has me hungry. I could really go for something tasty.
How about something vegan and something Mexican and something from Troy, New York? This week's episode is brought to you in part by vegan Mexican restaurant Burrito in Troy, New York, home of the 2-pound double wrapped in a quesadilla Burrito. Come on down to Burrito and Burrito, your Burrito. Find them at burritosquared.com and at Burrito Squared on Instagram. And remember, not every burrito is a burrito, but every burrito can be burrito.
Each week, we're able to bring you this podcast absolutely free, thanks to sponsors like Burrito, Angel Valenzuela and his son David Cash, Discover Darwin, Jackson Scoggins, and our amazing Patreon supporters like Zeb, Mason, and so many more!
Revenue from our incredible supporters on patreon.com/2000inch allows us to continue doing what we love, which is making fantastically fun and family-friendly Weird Al podcasts for you each and every week. And it also helps us keep our team of resident Joe Franklin historians on the payroll during this unprecedented and trying time. We'd absolutely appreciate your consideration in joining our pretty stinking majestic Patreon family for as little as $1 per month. Will you be our 27th Patreon supporter? We hope so.
Okay. I know a lot of you people probably like to wait until the last minute. Well, this is it. This is the last minute. So this year, get all your last-minute holiday shopping done in one place for everyone on your shopping list by visiting the official Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al Podcast merchandise shop. Head over to shop.2000inch.com for official Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al Podcast t-shirts, tote bags, mugs, tank tops, pillows, face masks, and more.
Find us online at weirdalpodcast.com or 2000inch.com, where you can find information about all of our guests and listen to past episodes like episode 28-inch, where we first spoke to Evan and his brother Michael. Please join our Facebook group by heading on over to group.2000inch.com for episode discussions and other exclusive content. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at 2000inch and at youtube.2000inch.com.
Remember to tag fun Weird Al or podcast-related posts on social media using hashtag 2000inch and hashtag GillandChill. And make sure to share our posts, tell your friends about the podcast, and we love it when you leave us voicemail via our 27-hour-a-day podcast hotline 347 Spatula. You might even hear your message on the air.
Head on over to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Amazon Music, or the podcast app of your choice and hit the subscribe button to ensure that you do not miss new episodes. New episodes drop every Wednesday, and bonus episodes may drop at any time.
Next year, we will begin airing our series of bonus episodes where we sit down with John Bermuda Schwartz and go page by page, picture by picture, through his brand new book, Black and White and Weird All Over. Time is running out for you to grab the book. You don't want to miss out on that. Plus, it's a great gift to give someone for Ruben's birthday.
Thank you once again to this week's guest, Evan Gregory. thank you to all the Gregory brothers, Mike Minnick, Chris Sear, Adrian Vasquez, and our resident Joe Franklin historian. A big thank you to all of our listeners, subscribers, Patreon supporters, and sponsors, and everyone else who made this episode and podcast possible.
All right, Dave, I think it's time we 86 this week's episode.
Not quite yet, Ethan. We have one more very important piece of business to attend to. From all of us here at Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al podcast, we wish you and yours a very safe and secure Christmas at Ground Zero. And remember, if you plan to go out and see all the new mutations on New Year's Day, please follow social distancing guidelines.
You've been listening to Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al podcast, episode 86-inch.
Everywhere you'll find pieces of Cupid and Comet.
Scoo-doom-doot-it, dooby-didn't-bibba-da-baba-da-boo, baba-doot-it.